talk 2020 goals and how I did or did not do. Hi guys, it's April, and I think it's always good to look back at your goals and evaluate whether or not you accomplish them and possibly why or why not, just so that when you start putting goals together for the next time around, maybe you can set things up for success rather than failure. I did do a mid-year goal look back to see how I was doing to that date. Some interesting things happened. I finally moved down into this new studio, and that kind of changed my mentality a little bit. And also, we've all been quarantined for most of this year, so that nixed some goals. But I'm going to talk about my goals as they have shifted from that mid-year till now. So like I said, I moved down into this official office studio library space, and one of the things I talked about was the fact of getting books down here and getting them organized. I got books down here. I have yet to get them organized. I want to film the process, but then actually getting up and filming the process has just been, I haven't done it. I have a whole area upstairs that I need to organize. I have this area down here to organize. I have a couple of bookcases that are organized that I do want to film for you guys. I'm a hot mess. It's the truth. It's just, this year I've just been a complete hot mess. It is something I still want to do, but I didn't quite hit it the way I wanted to. And part of that was just because of how other projects ended up taking more of a priority for me, and how work ended up being a little bit more time consuming, and the fact that I'm working from home, and so it's easier for it to take over a little bit more, even though it's also easier for me to film during breaks more than it was before. It's a trade-off. My next goal was to read 130 books with a stretch goal of 200 books. So for the first time in about 3 years, I've actually hit my stretch goal. I ended up reading 202 books. I didn't push myself to read any more than I normally do. My page count is actually around the same as it normally would be for the past couple of years. So I think it's just the fact that I read slightly shorter books, which isn't at all a bad thing. It's just I read a little differently this year, and that's fine. I also talked about knocking my physical TBR down to 200, and then realizing that I had yet to get even to 250, and so I bumped that goal back to 250 books, hopefully by the end of the year. I have not accomplished that. My physical TBR is at 278, unfortunately. I did end up reading 61 books off of my physical TBR, but my problem is I also added to my physical TBR. So that kind of shifted the numbers back in the wrong direction. So something I still need to work on, and maybe I will make it a higher priority in 2021. I also had this concept of doing releases on my radar or new releases, and I think I did fairly well at them this year. Every month I released a video that talked about books coming out that month. I think it went well. I really don't have much else to say about that goal. I think it is just, I've accomplished that, and I think it's something that I can now regularly do on my channel without actually consciously thinking about it. It's now permanently embedded in my brain to keep track of these kind of things and then to release that video. However, what I did start to fail on is captioning my videos. I wanted so bad for this to be incorporated naturally into my channel. I am not one of those people where it comes naturally to do that. I am not a writer, which is why I've been doing these video formats. Like I said in the previous videos, I knew this was going to be a struggle to me, and so I prioritized it to DIYs, into reviews, And now, even at this last half of the year, even that has slagged off. I haven't been keeping up with that. I think if this ever becomes a permanent thing for me, it's probably something I would want to hire out more than anything else, because it drains me. It doesn't fill me up. And I know it's there to help people who don't natively speak English and people who are hearing impaired, but how do you keep yourself motivated to do something that just drains you? And that is where I'm finding my struggle. I feel bad about it, but I also don't know how to fix it. Yeah. And another thing that I failed on, since we're talking about failures, is I constantly have been talking about doing more DIYs and more creative things, not necessarily even for my channel, outside of my channel, and doing all of that kind of stuff. And I talked about how I was totally inspired by this new space, and I totally still am. But it didn't quite come to fruition in the way that I was first imagining when I came down to this space. I think I still have some things to figure out in how I want to incorporate things and where I can find time to actually do what I want to do. Because while I have more of these grand ideas, I don't necessarily have more time. And I don't want to drain myself to a point in which I dread doing anything for this channel. So finding that balance of letting myself have a life outside of reading and coloring, but still bringing that joy to this channel, because I love reading, I love coloring. I don't ever want to have regrets with either of those two things. So I haven't quite pushed myself extremely hard to make this too much of a job, because that's not what this is. This is my hobby, this is my joy, this is just me being me. So things quite haven't gone as poof as I wanted it to. I don't even know what that means, but I do still have ideas in the back of my brain. And no, I'm not crazy. And honestly, those were all my goals. It has given me a look at what I could make for goals in 2021. While I didn't necessarily quite accomplish everything that I wanted to, and I didn't hit a lot of them like I wanted to, I still feel like they pushed me to find a comfortable place for where I wanted this channel and what I'm doing. And I'm finding that groove and still finding ways to improve and challenge myself. And maybe it's not necessarily in content creation. I'm starting to think that pushing myself that way isn't going to bring me joy. It's more of pushing myself in my coloring style and my coloring materials and the types of books I read and that kind of thing. And maybe I need to focus more on that side of things rather than challenging myself at creative content styles, if that makes sense. So that was just me kind of looking back at my goals. I would love to hear your guys' feedback on how you think I did for the year of 2020. What were some of your favorite things? What do you think I could probably do less of? I would love to hear back from you. And of course, if you want to see more content like this, subscribe down below, hit that bell, get all those notifications, and I heart your beautiful faces. Bye.